Welcome to Back to the Feature, the show where we talk about movies past, present, and future. Obviously, this last week was Thanksgiving, so we took the extra time off that we all got to go and see some movies at the theater. This week, we're talking about Allied, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and The Edge of 17.
This is heavy duty, Doc. This is great.
I'm your host, Giovanni, and I'm joined here, as always, with my friend John Vandeloo. So the first movie we're going to talk about today is Allied. This is the one we both got to see this week. I only saw Fantastic Beasts, and he only saw The Edge of 17. So later on, we'll each kind of give you guys our quick take on both of those movies. So Allied we both saw this week. That was what the game plan was, is to talk about this one. Obviously, we're fans of Robert Zemeckis because we love his seminal work in Back to the Future. So we obviously had to watch his newest movie. I also really have enjoyed some of his recent ones. I thought The Walk was pretty good. So I kind of came in optimistic that this would be a solid film, and I thought that the premise sounded very interesting. So it definitely grabbed my attention with its trailers, so still looking forward to this one, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, anything that has Brad Pitt and Marianne Cotillard, too, has been excellent in all the things that she's been choosing to do. So yeah, I mean...
Besides her death in The Dark Knight Rises, let's do this fairly. Her, and then I die. It was a little lackluster.
That was a few years ago by now.
Yeah.
I mean, 2012,
for
right?
sure. But no, she's always been a very good talent. Really enjoyed her as Lady Macbeth recently in Macbeth as well. So we know that she's got chops to play up against Brad Pitt, who I think is honestly like one of the last true movie stars around. And I really like his work as a producer as well.
Yeah.
Like the movies that he chooses to fund and put out, he's done some great ones. I mean, big name ones like, 12 Years a Slave, obviously getting his Oscars and stuff with that. So really talented just movie maker in general. I mean, not just as an actor. I think that he's a great just person in Hollywood.
I know. I was really hoping that he would get that long-awaited Oscar in this film. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing it.
I'm not quite seeing the Oscar for Brad Pitt for this one. I think he's had some great roles in the past.
I think he's really good at it. He does show some range, and he speaks, the different languages in the film. His French and his Quebec in the accents that they portray.
Much better than his work in Inglourious Bastards in that respect. For
yes.
Sure.
Which I thought was ironic and kind of funny watching it.
He still doesn't quite have it down in this movie, though. She does have to correct some of his French. But it's a lot better than Arrivederci. Allied is the story of two World War II era spies who meet in Morocco for a job and end up falling in love and getting married. But their happy marriage is interrupted when one of them is accused of being a German spy. Alright, John, so let's dig into this World War II era spy flick. What are some of your positives then from Allied?
One of the first things you notice is, just how immersive the film is. And I think it's something that Robert Zemeckis is, really, really good at. Putting you in a period and making it feel authentic is something that he's done throughout his career, starting with Back to the Future and then obviously Forrest Gump. Being one of those films that just spawn, goes through so much time period. You get so much of that feel in this film too. I think like set design, something that set design and costumes. Brad Pitt and Marianne Cotillard working together in Morocco. I loved all of that stuff in this film.
This definitely feels like a much more old school film than I think what we see. And I think that, touching on a lot of what you were talking about with Zemeckis and what he's really good at, I think that this movie, I can only think of a very short list of some directors that I think that would be really good at telling this story. It feels like it could have come out anywhere really between the 1950s and now and worked. And he is able to make it look so authentic. The costumes, the sets. I think a lot of the times when you see period pieces in 2016, they always end up looking like things that were made in 2016 to look like they're made for 1942 and, then put on a set. And this felt a lot more real. It felt like a throwback we don't quite see anymore because it's a lot harder to recreate those time periods now because they're so much farther away. The other thing, too, I felt was a really big positive. I really loved the use of color in this movie. I thought the color was crisp, rich, and very vibrant. And I think that, one of the things that there's a problem, I think, with a lot of movies is we get all these blues and all these grays and these color palettes, these really muted color palettes, and it's just, there was something really nice about how balanced and rich all of the colors felt in this movie, and I think that was one of the big positives about it for me visually.
Yeah, seeing like Morocco, like you get those yellows and those like vibrant colors that are happening, and then when they go back to London too, you get like you get the green, like the really beautiful, like England green, but then you also have like the destruction of war that's happening, and I like that contrast. I thought it was really, really gorgeous looking.
And there's actually a lot of contrast in the light. I notice a lot in this movie where it goes from like darker, bleaker scenes to then brighter scenes that are in sunlight, and I think that's why I think I was really impressed with the cinematography, is that all of that looked great. There's scenes that are out in the rain that are bleak and gray, and they look so clear and vibrant, colorful still. I think that it really helped this movie a lot, especially I think really enriching its kind of period throwback feel. I don't think that there's a lot of guys that could have done this movie. I think Zemeckis has just that skill set to be able to do a story that spans many years, being able to show you the stuff that you need to see for the movie to work, and be able to take those time jumps. I think do a really good job with that.
Yeah. Another thing that I thought Robert Zemeckis did a really good job of was like the thriller elements in this. Yeah. This movie is very suspenseful, and there's a lot of subtlety that goes into a lot of the smaller moments that are happening on screen. But like there's these longer stretched out scenes, which I think did have a little issue with the pacing going into the negatives. But the positives that did come from that was that there's these shots that really sustain suspense, and some of them are really long, and I did really enjoy that. I like one of the negatives I heard in the review was that there's a really long tracking shot when he's going down to V section to, find out some things or get orders to go on a mission. And there's this really long scene of him walking down the hall, and he like passes by a guy who's like interpreting Morse code, and then there's a guy working in an electrician thing. I really enjoyed that because it shows the authenticity, it shows that vibrance. It didn't just feel like a small little stage set.
Yeah.
There's things like this that Robert Zemeckis did a really excellent job, and it really captured my attention watching this film.
Yeah. So besides some of the technical things and just the period piece and the sets and everything like that, what did you think about the performances and maybe some of the writing in this movie?
I think the performances are pretty strong. I think Brad Pitt is really good, but I think they could have pushed him more.
Yeah, I didn't think that there was that much there for them. They didn't give him enough of that character.
Yeah,
I feel
there's a lot of good subtlety in some of the stuff that he's doing, and I mean him in some of the action sequences is done really well. But there's just a little bit missing, I think, from what they could have given Brad Pitt. I think Marion Cotillard kills it. I think she does an excellent job. But I think they could have pushed her a little bit more too, honestly. I think it's almost too subtle at times.
Yeah, I think they were really trying to play it safe. I think especially too with her character, trying to get her to ride the line a lot, where you could really doubt her loyalty or disloyalty. And I think that in trying to keep her so much in the middle, that I think we didn't quite get enough from either of our two leads in some ways. I feel like there's some things about the characters I thought that were charming, especially her in the beginning of the movie. I thought she was really charming with her she has this very like lady about town kind of like persona. They first meet in Morocco. She just kind of knows everybody and everybody's business and sort of entrenched already. And you see this kind of interesting talent as a spy. I think that stuff was really well done. I think there's certain types of attention to detail and meticulousness you need to be able to pull off the spy feel of a movie. And I think that like some of those early scenes in Morocco I really enjoyed. Them kind of feeling each other out and them kind of figuring out how they're going to perform this mission. I really enjoyed that. How they were going to sell, hey, we're this couple that, but we're
super interesting.
Yeah, I really felt that.
Very engaging stuff.
Like the spy elements, I did really enjoy that.
For film lovers, like for someone who's interested in this, you're gonna get stuff out of that. And I think the writing, going off of this, is written by Stephen Knight. He wrote Eastern Promises, the movie Locke with Tom Hardy.
I really love that one.
He's done other shows too, like Taboo. He's creator.
I'm really interested in seeing that. If you guys haven't found the trailer for that yet, look up Taboo. The Taboo trailer. It's on FX. I think it's coming to, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys check that out. It looks really interesting. If you like Tom Hardy, it's a project he's now been working on for quite a while. So.
But I think this is the type of story. It's a complicated story to write. And I think I don't think it falls apart. I think it's written. I think it's written fairly well.
Yeah, I can definitely agree that maybe he doesn't quite fully deliver, but there's a lot of really positive things that are going on in the script for this. But I think we can kind of start moving over the negatives. We're kind of already talking about some of them. I think there was just some elements of the relationship didn't quite get 100% sold. I think that like I could believe that they were like could become great friends or really love each other, respect each other's talent and personality. But I think when it came to like the more passionate stuff, like the lovemaking scenes and like things like that, where I didn't feel sold. I didn't feel like that like passionate fire between those two characters.
Yeah, they showed. I think they showed a little too much restraint with some of it.
Yeah.
And a little too subtle.
You know, another negative for me, I think, was some of the implementation of the CGI effects. I think that like you have so many practical things that are going on that are so well done and shot so well that I think that sometimes when he introduces some of the CGI, and there's one like right off the bat that just doesn't, it just looks a little out of place. Like the rest of it is so authentic, really transports you back to that time. But then there's just some of the stuff where you can just sort of see that, you know, that wasn't there. And,
yeah.
And that it was obviously like a CGI thing. And
you couldn't pay someone to parachute? Come on.
Yeah, that one I was kind of scratching my head.
Yeah,
like,
just like, you couldn't really, I mean, like...
Come on, like,
yeah.
Tom Cruise would have jumped out of the plane. Like, we can get Brad to jump out of the plane, right?
Yeah.
Let's do it. But yeah, there was just a couple of CGI shots. I thought they were just a little jarring, didn't quite look as well. And, you know, I don't think Zemeckis is known for his implementation of, like, tons of CGI. So maybe it's just something that he's not as good with, you know, as, say, that some of the younger directors that have worked with it, you know, since the beginning. So, we've talked about the positives, and we've talked about the negatives. So now it's time for final summaries and grades. John, what's your final summary and grade for Allied?
I found Allied to be a really enjoyable film, a throwback to the 1940s. I thought it looked great. Robert Zemeckis directed. I thought he did an excellent job directing this film. I think the performances are pretty good. They could have been better. I don't think they're bad by any means, but I think it could have pushed a little bit more in that respect. I felt like the story could have been a little bit tighter, though I do like that the movie kind of goes a little sprawl. You know, it sprawls out a little bit. It kind of gets that wider range. I enjoyed that, but I think as a film it did suffer from it a little bit. I definitely recommend checking this one out in theaters. I think it definitely benefits from seeing it on the big screen. It doesn't have, I don't think it has a lot of replay value, but I definitely want to watch it one more time for sure, just because of some of the things that are going on in the story. I think maybe we're a little misrepresented or it got a little bit lost. So it definitely has replay value in my mind. So I give this movie a B-.
Allied is a well-made spy romance by Robert Zemeckis. It is rich color and some amazing sets and design overall. It's got some very solid performances by its leads, and I'd say is written fairly well. It has enough to keep your attention, and I think it sweeps through its time period quite well, while also keeping the audience still involved and not feeling like we're getting pushed through a bunch of years too quickly, which I think is something that's very hard for a movie like this to do. As we've said, this movie definitely is a throwback and feels like a much older film, but in a really good way. I think that this one is a great one as well to see on the big screen, so check this one out while it's still in theaters. I give Allied a B-. So Allied's not the only movie we ended up seeing. Even though we were separated on a break, we still couldn't help but go to the theaters a couple times. And John ended up seeing The Edge of 17, and I ended up seeing Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. So, John, what did you think of The Edge of 17? I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually. I didn't see any trailers for this movie. Nothing.
I haven't seen one either yet.
I actually went out on a whim. Garrett McDowell. I read a tweet of him saying people are looking for diversity, people are looking for creativity. I was like, I'm gonna go check this one out. I got at least like a Monday afternoon, like nothing else is going on. I'm gonna go see The Edge of 17, and it was excellent. This movie's awesome. It was extremely funny but heartfelt as well. It was really surprising how much I enjoyed this film. You know, first time directorial debut for Kelly Fremon Craig, writer and director of the film, and she did a really amazing job as director. I think there were aspects of the story with Nadine, Haley Steinfeld's character, that only a woman director could translate it. I really felt that way watching it. You know, the story of a 17-year-old girl in high school. This movie felt very authentic. I think I was laughing quite a bit. You get Woody Harrelson in there too as Nadine's teacher. And he is so morbid and so funny. Like, he just kind of plays with her.
Now, from what I understand, from the little bits that I've heard about it, so he's kind of like her sounding board. So she's kind of bringing some of these personal things in her life.
Yeah, she's
to him for kind of advice.
She's a social outcast, and she doesn't really get along. She says she's an older spirit, you know. She just doesn't get along with people her age. So she comes and has lunch with Woody Harrelson's character, her teacher, and he kind of plays it off like he hates it. It's his favorite time of the day, is 45 minutes of lunch. And she comes in and ruins it every day. And he kind of plays it that way, and I think that their exchange is hilarious. But the movie is very authentic. I think the things that she goes through in this movie, I haven't quite seen in movies. I felt it was extremely original and refreshing because of how funny it was.
It sounds like it's coming from a very real place.
Yeah, coming from a real place. So like the synopsis, she's a social outcast and she has one close friend. And her close friend starts dating her older brother. Now you'd think that there's cliches in there, and there are some cliches in there, but I think there's that authenticity. It really, really held the movie tight.
Yeah, sometimes I think that even if a movie is in some ways something that we've seen before, I think that if you're able to put an original spin or just inject that little bit of realness to it, I think that something that maybe is tried and true can still have value. I think a great example is like Sing Street this last year as well. If you haven't seen that, go see that one. It's now on Netflix. I think that's another great example of that, where it's something that we've seen this a billion times, this shouldn't work. But they bring something to it that's very real and authentic that you go, oh, no, I've been there. I understand this.
I mean, if you really look at it, life is cliche. Everyone kind of goes through the same shit. I mean, it's true, though.
I mean, we are one of probably millions of YouTube shows. So, yes, even we are a cliche, John. I'm questioning everything now.
But yeah, no, I thought it was a very enjoyable movie-going experience. Not seeing anything on it, not knowing anything on it, just going to movies and seeing a movie, going to see it.
So what's your grade then, individually, for The Edge of 17?
I was kind of tossing up between A minus. I would maybe sit with an A. I thought it was extremely enjoyable. I want to rewatch it. Probably own it. It was a good movie.
Well, I probably should have seen your movie. I'm going to talk about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. So, John, you don't really have too much experience then with the Harry Potter franchise, with the books, the movies, or anything.
No, I have none.
None.
I have none.
I'll try to speak in English for as much as I may say Muggle. I may mention wand work. It's very liable to happen. No, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is the Hobbit series of the Harry Potter movies. No. Yeah, our camera guy's also nodding off camera. Yeah, this is a prequel to the Harry Potter films. It's set in the 1920s in New York. I was very interested coming in to think about, J.K. Rowling, the writer of the books, is writing this film, and she is created this wizarding world in America. And I was very interested to see how she would adapt 1920s America and add witches and wizards and magic to it. It's kind of like the gangster squad with wands. I was like, okay, I'm interested a little bit. So it's the story of this man named Newt Scamander who has a suitcase full of magical creatures, and being the horrible Pokemon trainer that he is, he releases all of the creatures into New York and then has to go and find them. The thing about Harry Potter as a franchise, and the movies I think do a really good job of, is that what we love so much, I think, about Harry Potter, more than anything, is it's got to be its world. Who doesn't want to be a wizard? When you hear that idea in the book or the movies, you're like, yeah, I'd like to do that. That seems like that would be fun. To be able to do magic and all these mystical creatures and these things just beyond what other people can't see. This whole other world is there. So I was really excited to be immersed back in that world, and I just did not get that from this movie. The world felt so small and
detached, maybe?
I felt limited in imagination, really. Like where I feel like when you watch even the Harry Potter movies, and you know, I try to put aside my book fan feelings before I went in here. You know, I was just like, you know, let this movie stand on its own. What do I think? And you know, even being such a big fan of the books, I try to, you know, not go like, well, in the books there's all this and this and this and this. And of course, you couldn't really do that with this because it's an original work. But even when you're watching the Harry Potter movies, that world feels deep, and not just because of the information, but just because of like the way that the Ministry of Magic looks. You're like, oh, I wonder what's behind that door, what's down that elevator. You know what I mean? It seems like it has scale and scope, and this felt very small. It just, I don't know what it was quite about it. It just felt very small. There's some sequences I did enjoy. There's a very interesting sequence where he actually goes down in the suitcase and he's showing this person is no magic, guy can't do magic, showing him all the magical creatures. And see, like, for me, that really got me going. I really enjoyed that, seeing all these interesting imaginative things. But for the rest of the movie, I found people to be very hard to understand. Eddie Redmayne mumbles a lot in this movie, and I don't know if it was the sound mixing in the theater I had, but he was indistinguishable. There was sometimes he'd say something, and you're saying all these like magic terms and hurling them at people, and he's mumbling through most of it, and you're like, what did he say? So that definitely
he does kind of do that.
Yeah, he is kind of a chronic mumbler. So this is, you know, that part of it was really hard to get into it when you're constantly trying to understand what they're saying. I mean, and I've watched Trainspotting, okay? So I'm not, you know what I mean? It's not like, you know, I've never heard like, you know, British people talk. It's just that he really just mumbles the hell out of it. So other than that, though, this movie really was just a very big info dump. So it was really hard to get too excited about anything in it. I think that Eddie Redmayne, though, even though he's a mumbler, he's quite charming, I think, as Newt Scamander. I'll be interested to see what they do with the rest of these movies, I think, more than I was interested in this movie.
I feel like we're in a strange time period, too. We were talking about Allied. You know, there's this weird period of time right now where movies can have that small feel. Like, you're like, and have this, like, I don't know. It almost looks like dated CGI already. I don't know what it is, but I've been seeing it, and I thought that's what, you know, Allied had really good things about it with the set design.
Yeah.
Because the set designs were so big. And we talk about like Hacksaw Ridge 2, really small sets, and then a lot of CGI. Movies are kind of going, maybe to save money, I would assume. They're trying to save money in that way.
That or we're just getting a better eye for it, maybe.
Because maybe, yeah. Get more accustomed to that CG.
Yeah, and then it sticks out more like a sore thumb than it ever did before. Where you're just getting...
But I even never seen Harry Potter, though, like seeing... You know, Hogwarts, seeing the school, seeing all that, and that came out the same year as Lord of the Rings as well.
I think right before.
Right before, same time, right there. It was right there. But like seeing those movies 15 years ago, and then seeing movies, they can't even do that nowadays.
Well,
it feels like.
You know, speaking of Lord of the Rings, this is an example. I mean, the Lord of the Rings trilogy will always age better than the Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah.
Just because of that fact, when you have that real thing there, and I think that this movie definitely didn't have that. It felt, like I said, it felt very limited in its scope, and I think it's because they didn't really make enough of it to really make you feel immersed in it. So
yeah. Well, I think throwing back to 1920s though too, that's probably difficult.
Yeah.
And who directed this film?
For Fantastic Beasts, David Yates. He did all the Harry Potter movies since the 5th one, which I think that's why I was thinking it was so strange, is that I felt like he had such a good grasp of like the Harry Potter world, and that this one came out so flat. But I think that it really just kind of suffers from that, the fact, like I said, it's an info dump. It's a lot of exposition, a lot of just telling us all of these terms we're going to need to know for the rest of the story. So I think it really feels like, for me, kind of like what the first Hobbit movie was like, you know, where we're just kind of getting all this information, getting set where we're supposed to be, but then the next movie is the one we're really going to want to see. And I'm kind of not a big fan of those kind of films that are just kind of, like I said, setups or teases for the next film in the series.
Yeah.
But like I said, other than that, I really enjoyed Eddie Redmayne. I thought that Ezra Miller also turned in a good performance. And maybe it's just a little biased. I really enjoyed Colin Farrell. I didn't think he was in it quite enough, but when he was on screen, he was, I think, as good as he always is. I think when he's in the right role, like, I can really, really kill it. It was nice seeing him in robes with a wand and stuff. I thought he did a really good job as a wizard, or as an Auror in the Harry Potter universe. So hopefully we'll get to see some more of him. No spoilers. So overall, for me, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was a little bit of a disappointment. I was still mildly entertained. There was some interesting ideas thrown around in the film, and there was some cool magical creatures. There was some times where I felt the magic back just a little bit. So I'd say for an overall grade, I give Fantastic Beasts like a C-. Is kind of how I'm feeling about it. It was fine, but overall not quite the movie to get us back to full Harry Potter levels. It'll probably be the next movie. It'll probably be a bit more exciting. So that's been our episode today of Back to the Feature. We've talked about Allied, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and The Edge of 17. Definitely all movies worth checking out. Comment down below what you think of any of the movies that we've talked today. But also like and subscribe here on YouTube. You can also find us on our page on Facebook. And you can find us on Twitter at BacktoFeature. Tweet with us on there. We'll tweet with you guys all day long about movies. I've been your host, Giovanni Carlo.
And I'm John Vanderloo.
And we'll see you guys next time.